All right, seventh graders, I'm gonna go through measurement with you, um, as I cannot be there today. And we're gonna break down a couple different things in measurement. Like I said previously, measurement is one of those skills where a lot of people have it, but it's also really challenging for a lot of individuals. So across the board, across the class, you're probably going to find people who measurement is really strong for them, and then individuals in our class who measurement is more of a struggle for them and they need more practice. So be patient with each other. Be patient with me as I'm going to go through some of the basics because I want to make sure you understand measurement. And then we'll be able to move forward together on Thursday where you're going to actually be able to measure and cut. So first off, what we're looking at is the giant inch. So I'm going to pause for 30 seconds. And in your heads, I want you just to think about, what do you already know about what you see on the screen? You can also begin to think of in your head, just think of questions you have about the giant inch, about the lines, what you're seeing. About 10 more seconds. All right, so what you are looking at is one singular inch. I call it the giant inch because I blow it up really big on the board and it's not to scale. So we know some of the things that are very common that we know is that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, that there are 16 parts within 1 inch. So if you start here at the line with the 0 and you count across, you're going to count to 16 once you land on the 1 line. Some other things individuals know is they know what these different lengths of lines represent. Hopefully you thought of some other things that you could think of by looking at this image on the screen. Those are the most common. So moving forward, if we break down this inch, so like I said, there's 16 parts to an inch. And notice that every line is labeled with a fraction out of a 16th. So if you've ever heard in math class, you record the part over the whole. That is how you set up a fraction. So essentially measurements include fractions that are telling us that we are not quite to the next whole inch or the next, the next whole inch. So starting at the 0, 1 line in is 1/16. 2 lines in is 2/16, 3/16, etc. I want to go over to the 15/16. Okay, if we hit one more line over to the 1 inch line, something you know from math class is that if you have the same number over each other in a fraction, so if we had 16 over 16, that would simplify to 1 whole, giving us the next start to the next inch. Okay, now looking at these, what do you know that you can do from here? I'm going to give you about 5 seconds. Okay, if you said simplify the fraction, you are 100% correct. So looking now at our inches, we start out with the 1/16. 1/16 is already simplified. That is why it is the same. The next line now is 1/8. Okay, that was previously 2/16. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay, moving over, we're going to skip 3/16. Next line is 1/4. So we're at a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, we're going to skip forward to the 1/2 inch. recognizing that the half inch used to be 8/16. So how you simplify a fraction is you simply just divide by 2 until you can't any further, or divide both numbers by a number that they are divisible by. So looking at this, something I want you to take away from this is that in a fraction, you have the numerator, which is the top number, and you have the denominator, which is the bottom number. The denominator in your fractions when you're measuring can only be 2, 4, 8, or 16. If you are ever working on a project and you are working with really precise measurements, the smallest you usually would go would be a 32nd, okay, which would be small, half of a 16th. Okay, so we have our inch broken down into 16ths, and then we have our inch broken down into half, quarters, eighths, and 16ths because we were able to simplify. So next up, how do you actually read a ruler? So you guys, when you guys are in the wood shop, you are going to have to measure a very specific measurement, and then you're going to have to mark it on your board, create a straight line at that measurement, and then cut your board to that exact length. Okay, so we need to make sure we know how to read a ruler. Okay, on some rulers, you have inches on one side and centimeters on the other side. It's important to know that inches usually go to 12 on a ruler. I have some longer steel rulers that do go to 24 inches. Okay, so if it's something longer, you could always check to make sure you're on the inches side by counting the lines in between the inches, because there should be 16. Okay, we will not use centimeters in here, so please do not say centimeters, millimeters, meters, anything like that. So how you're actually going to read a ruler, if we read this measurement here with the arrow, the first thing we want to do is record our whole inches. So these numbers on the ruler are the whole inches. So we're going to see what one we passed last. So the one we passed last is 3. So we're going to put a 3 down. Okay, then we record our partial inches out of 16. So we want to get that 16 inches on as our denominator. And then our partial inches would be if we are starting at the 3 line and we count away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this measurement that the arrow is pointing to is 3 5/16. Something I want to clarify for you is when you are, I'm going to go back to this. When you are counting the lines past the inch, it's just like a board game. So when you are playing Monopoly, sorry, whatever game you're playing, and you roll a 6, you don't count the spot that you are currently on. Meaning, we do not count the inch line that we are starting on. We just sit here, and then when we move over, we can hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. The other thing I want to clarify for you guys is sometimes some of the rulers that I have in this room, they have one side of the ruler is broken into 16ths, while the other side of the ruler is broken into 8ths. So the side that's broken into 16ths would have 16 lines in between the 1 and the 2 and the 3, etc. And it would be just like what I've been teaching you guys previously in this video. My squares, however, that you're going to use are going to have their measurements broken down into 8ths. That means there is 8 lines, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, between the whole inches. So I want to break that down for you quick. So when we have a measurement tool that only shows 8ths, it would have all these longer lines on it, and it would not have this row of short lines on it. So your guys' measurement that you're gonna have to count is going to have to be 7/8 of an inch. That's how I'm gonna verbalize it. If you need to go by 16ths, know that you're gonna have to double it. So 7 plus 7 is 14. So knowing that we're gonna be right out here at this measurement, 14/16, 7/8. It's gonna be 1/8 in from the next whole inch, or 2/16 in from the next whole inch. The last thing I want to share with you is when you are measuring, you need to make sure you start from the 0. So you're making sure you're lining up the end of your material with the 0 on your ruler. Some rulers, the 0's on the end, some the 0 is in a little bit. Some other rulers, the end is kind of worn down. And so then you might not be getting an accurate measurement because you might not have a full inch from the end to the 1. So being mindful about that as well. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a measurement packet from the sub, and you are going to work through the measurement packet independently. There's a few different ways I have you practice measuring. I then have you practice simplifying your fractions. And you're going to work through that. We can check our answers with the answer key later this week or into next week. But it's really crucial that you practice your measuring skills because you have to apply them in the wood shop. If you're getting frustrated, you can reference this video because I posted it on Google Classroom as well. Or you could reach out for some guidance from the sub or a student in the class who is feeling really strong in measurement. If you get done early with time to spare, please make sure you are keeping that volume level of 0 to 1. Make sure you're being respectful of the other individuals who are working. And then you can continue to work on other work that you may have, whether that is reading, writing a story, working on science, math, whatever it may be.